On March 6, 1945, at 3:47 p.m., in the rubble-strewn Cologne Cathedral Square, Feldwebel Karl Hoffmann pressed his eye to the spiderweb-cracked periscope of his Tiger tank, squinting to identify the unfamiliar silhouette moving steadily through the debris of bombed-out buildings. For 3 long years, he had memorized every American tank profile, from the high-riding M4 Sherman with its 75mm gun, to the fragile Stuart light tanks, to the rare jumbo Shermans with extra armor that still could not pierce a Tiger's frontal plate beyond 500 meters. Yet this approaching vehicle defied every chart, every intelligence report, and every training silhouette he had ever studied. "Das ist kein Sherman," he whispered into the intercom, his voice quivering in a way that his crew had never heard before. Through the cracked optics, Hoffmann took in the massive gun barrel, longer and thicker than any American weapon he had seen, the hull lower and more angular with sloped, cast armor, and the enormous turret that seemed almost absurdly large, like a heavy anti-aircraft gun mounted on a tank chassis. Recognition charts offered no answers. Intelligence briefings provided nothing. In exactly 18 seconds, Hoffmann and his crew would learn a hard lesson. The Americans had built a tank capable of killing them from any angle, at any distance, and the war of armored supremacy had fundamentally changed. Minutes earlier, Wilhelm Bartelbohr and his Panther crew of Panzer Brigade 106 had discovered the same truth. Their 5-man team never reported their fate, cut down instantly when a 90mm M3 round from an American M26 Pershing tore through their turret face, its 853 meter-per-second projectile splitting the 100mm armor that had once seemed invincible, detonating in the crew compartment, ending lives in the blink of an eye. The myth of German armored supremacy, painstakingly built over 2.5 years with Tigers and Panthers, was rooted not only in steel but in psychology. German crews had lived with the belief that their 88mm guns, capable of destroying Allied tanks at over 2 kilometers, and 120mm turret armor, impervious to standard Sherman fire, made them invincible. Veterans of the Schwer Panzer Abteilung 506 described an almost mystical feeling of superiority. Tigers could kill from beyond sight and return unscathed. Allied tank crews developed Tiger fever, misidentifying every German tank as a potential death machine, while German crews painted kill rings on their barrels like fighter aces, confident that technological dominance ensured survival. But in September 1942, American engineers, recognizing the growing disparity, secretly began work on the T-26 heavy tank program. Production was an industrial feat. 14 major contractors, 300 subcontractors, and over 50,000 workers across 22 states coordinated to build a tank capable of piercing the myth of invincibility. Fisher Body Division in Michigan retooled its Grand Blanc arsenal, introducing new casting techniques, redesigned transmissions, and, critically, the 90mm M3 gun previously used only in tank destroyers and anti-aircraft roles. The M3 gun fired a 24-pound armor-piercing shell at velocities exceeding 2,800 feet per second, capable of penetrating Tiger frontal armor at combat range. Its HVAP tungsten round could even threaten King Tigers. The development program was shrouded in secrecy, with components manufactured separately to prevent any single worker from seeing the complete tank. When the first 20 Pershings arrived in Europe in January 1945, they were labeled as heavy maintenance equipment, wrapped in tarps, and transported under cover of darkness to maintain absolute secrecy. Crews trained at Fort Knox, sworn to silence, were integrated discreetly into Sherman units. Major General Maurice Rose personally briefed commanders on this new weapon, emphasizing the strategic importance of maintaining concealment while preparing for combat. By February 25, 1945, the first Pershings were distributed among the 3rd Armored Division, 1 per task force, camouflaged to blend with regular Shermans while retaining their distinguishing long guns and low profiles. German intelligence, despite one of the most effective espionage networks of the war, was completely unaware of the Pershing program. Commanders remained convinced that the Americans had chosen quantity over quality, unable to conceive that U.S. industry could pivot to heavy tank production while maintaining Sherman output. The first combat losses began almost immediately. A T-26E3 nicknamed Fireball fell to a Tiger in a close-range ambush on February 26, but was repaired and returned to service within days, demonstrating the Pershing's durability and the Americans' maintenance capability. Within weeks, scattered reports reached German headquarters. Unidentified American tanks with long guns and heavy armor destroying Panthers at 1,500 to 1,800 meters, unthinkable ranges for standard Sherman engagement. March 6, 1945, would mark the defining confrontation, the battle at Cologne Cathedral Square. German forces positioned their remaining tanks around the square, confident behind rubble for partial cover. Wilhelm Bartelbohr in his Panther spotted what he initially assumed was an unusual Sherman variant approaching near the destroyed Gerien Hotel. At point-blank range, he fired, but his high-velocity 75mm round ricocheted harmlessly. Staff Sergeant Robert Early, commanding the Pershing Eagle 7, had already acquired the Panther in his gun sight. Corporal Clarence Smuyer fired, the 90mm shell punching through the turret face, igniting the tank as ammunition cooked off, destroying the crew in seconds. Another German tank attempted to respond, only to be similarly destroyed. The engagement lasted less than 5 minutes but shattered the psychological foundation of German armored forces. Reports of 90mm armed American tanks, even when only rumors, caused German crews to hesitate, abandon positions, and retreat, unsure if the approaching Shermans were ordinary or deadly Pershings. Despite only 20 Pershings seeing combat, their psychological impact was catastrophic. German crews who had been confident in their technical superiority now faced doubt, hesitation, and fear. Defensive positions once capable of holding days collapsed in hours. Minor mechanical issues led to vehicle abandonment. Crews refused to engage, paralyzed by the possibility of facing a Pershing. As American forces advanced toward the Rhine in late March 1945, German tankers experienced a profound cognitive shock, comparing Eastern Front victories over Soviet armor to the terrifying uncertainty of the West. By April, German units with operational Tigers and Panthers often withdrew without firing a shot. Encounters with Pershings, even when rare or non-existent, reshaped tactical doctrine, rendered technical superiority irrelevant, and accelerated the collapse of German morale. Post-war analyses confirmed that the psychological effect far outweighed actual combat losses. The belief in American parity and industrial capacity shattered confidence, undermining resistance and encouraging surrenders. While 310 Pershings reached Europe, only about 20 saw combat. Yet the knowledge that American factories could produce thousands of tanks, maintain Sherman production, and integrate advanced engineering shattered German assumptions about industrial and technological inevitability. American innovations, wet ammunition storage, spacious interiors, stabilized guns, crew communication systems, and superior optics, reinforced the perception that the United States had not merely caught up but potentially surpassed German tank design. The final weeks of the war saw German crews, once confident hunters in their Tigers and Panthers, hesitate, withdraw, and surrender in the face of potential Pershing threats. The M26 Pershing's true victory lay not in kill ratios, but in the destruction of certainty, proving that psychological dominance, enabled by industrial capacity and strategic innovation, could outweigh numerical or technical considerations. Surviving German veterans consistently identified the appearance of the Pershing as the moment they realized the war was lost. The American 90mm gun through the shattered periscope symbolized not just a tactical threat, but the collapse of the myth of invincibility, the inversion of hunter and hunted, and the overwhelming power of an industrial democracy capable of producing weapons that could match the best German designs while maintaining quantity, a lesson in warfare, psychology, and industrial might that would resonate long after the war's end.